Hi everyone, my name is Aliana and I am one of the animal interpreters here at the Memphis Zoo. Today we're going to be doing an encounter with Monty, our ball python. And as you may have seen in the news, some non-primate mammals can contract COVID-19. So here at the Memphis Zoo, we are taking all of the precautions necessary when handling our mammals and being around any of our coworkers. Since Monty here is a reptile, and as far as we know, she has no risk of catching anything from me, I am going to be taking my mask off, but keeping my gloves on so that hopefully you guys can hear me a little better. All right. So again, my name is Aliana, and this here is Monty. She's a ball python. And today what we are going to be talking about is we're going to be talking all about Monty and all the cool things about her, but I'm also going to tell you guys a little bit about kind of what it takes to be a zookeeper. So this week with our virtual wild encounters, we sort of want to focus on what we do as zookeepers every day, maybe some parts of the job that you guys might not have known about that happens behind the scenes. And I was going to start off by talking about what it takes to get into this field, because it's kind of a weird field to get into, and some people don't really know what it takes if they might be interested in going into it. So the first thing to know about zookeeping is you do need to have an education. So usually you do need to have a bachelor's degree now to get a job at a zoo. So I got my bachelor's in marine biology. I now live in a landlocked state, so that brings me to another point, which is it doesn't really matter what you decide to major in. Any sciences are going to be helpful, but it's really not necessary to just major in biology or something like that. You can major in environmental science. I know people who majored in that are now in this field.
I think it's worth pointing out real fast that Monty herself is pushing the camera around, and it's not me moving anything.
There she goes. All right, go in the right direction now. So if you're interested in being a zookeeper, that is definitely the first thing to know. You do have to get some sort of college degree, but you can kind of tailor it to whatever you're interested in. You can also do psychology, because we do a lot of stuff with animal behavior. I've been on here talking about training before, and I think we're going to talk about training more later in the week. So that is basically psychology and a lot of stuff that comes from psychology. So that is another thing that you can major in as a zookeeper. But regardless of what you go to school for, the most important thing about zookeeping is experience. So no matter what kind of field you want to go, what kind of field you're studying in school, that is going to be the thing that places are looking at when they are potentially going to hire you. So experience can be a lot of things. It can be volunteering at different places, like a wildlife rehab center, interning at a wildlife rehab center. I interned at a sea turtle hospital, so back when I was in college. And it can also be, a lot of what it's going to be is internships. And specifically, I will go ahead and say that they are probably going to be unpaid internships. Usually you're going to need at least a year of experience doing something with a zoo. So after I graduated, I did 2 internships. One was unpaid, one didn't pay a whole lot. But now I was able to get my wonderful job here at the Memphis Zoo as an interpreter, and be able to tell you guys all about Monty and our other really cool animals that we've had on our virtual wild encounters. So talking about how you need experience, that's really when a lot of your training is going to be done. That's when you're going to learn a lot of the things that you need in order to be in this field, kind of depending on what species you want to work with. Before my previous apprenticeship at the Brandywine Zoo in Delaware, most of you have probably never heard of it. It is about 6 acres total, but I was an education apprentice there, and that is the first time that I worked with reptiles. So I did work with the sea turtles, but I didn't do a whole lot with their really specialized care that they needed. And so working with reptiles for the first time, like Monty here, that was really when I learned kind of what they need and everything that each different species needs, kind of how to tailor their care to the individual. And I worked with a bunch of other animals that I had never worked with before, so it's definitely on-the-job training. That is what you are mostly going to see in this field. So when you are learning all about the different animals that you're taking care of, that's a really good basis. So I learned a whole lot about taking care of reptiles and all sorts of animals. But when I came here to the Memphis Zoo, Monty is a wonderful example. I had never taken care of ball pythons before. So everything that I know about Monty now, I had to learn in the past couple months in taking care of her and in talking to the public about her. So ball pythons, to talk a little bit about them, they are a species from Africa. They do like to climb. They are a semi-arboreal species. And this is, she has been here at the Memphis Zoo since, I believe it's 1997. So she is a pretty old snake. They can live for a really long time. They can live to be up into their 40s. And if you guys might be able to see, she is fully stretched out. So I did have our one snake Bandit the other day who was 6 feet long. Monty is not that long. So she fits pretty nicely on this table we have here. She's probably about 4 feet long. So these are definitely not the longest snakes in the world. She's trying to roll off my table here. So these are not the longest snakes in the world. They max out at around 4 feet, maybe 5. Monty specifically, she came to us. She used to be somebody's pet a long time ago. They were then not able to take care of her, so she made her way here to the Memphis Zoo. You guys might have noticed that she is missing an eye. So that is because at some point in her life, they had a bad shed, so her shed got stuck to her eye, and then she ended up losing it. But she has a very healthy life. She's able to eat well. She's able to find her way around. And that is because snakes primarily are going to use their sense of smell. So she doesn't really rely on her eyesight all that much. She's going to be sticking that tongue out, you guys might see. There she goes a little bit. She sticks her tongue out and she smells her environment, and that's how she's able to kind of figure out her way around. So it doesn't really affect her. We take really good care of her here, as I was saying. So since she's a ball python, they have specific temperature requirements that they need. Snakes and pretty much all reptiles like it hot, but some like it warmer than others. So we have to be monitoring her enclosure temperature to make sure it's the right temperature. Also to make sure it's the right humidity. So she doesn't really want to live in a place that's super wet all the time, but she also doesn't want to be on her substrate in her enclosure and have it be bone dry with no water at all. So those are some of the kind of things that we have to pay attention to as zookeepers to make sure our individual animals are getting all of the care that they need. And another thing that goes along with being a zookeeper, which is essentially what we've been doing with these wild encounters, these virtual wild encounters, is educating the public. So that is one of the most important parts of my job, especially as an animal interpreter. Interpreter kind of sounds like a funny word. It might not sound like a word that would relate to zookeeping, but interpretation essentially means you are being a voice for something that doesn't have a voice. So it could be something in nature if you're advocating for people to recycle, as we do here at the Memphis Zoo, or here I'm interpreting and talking about Monty. So I'm giving you guys information about her, and we're going to talk a little bit about some things you can do to help really all snakes, any that live here, or wild animals that might come from Africa like Monty. So as an interpreter, we are educating the public, and so that is kind of goes along with, again, when I was talking about how you do need an education to be a zookeeper, but that education doesn't stop once you graduate college. So you're learning all sorts of things on the job, and you're also staying up to date on current research, on current things that we know about different species, so that when you guys come here to the Memphis Zoo and we teach you about our really cool animals that you get to see, if you get to see Monty or you get to see any of the other animals that are out on exhibit, that you can be confident that we are telling you the correct information and that we really know our stuff. We know how to take care of our animals very well. They live a very good life here, and we should be able to answer really any questions that you guys have.
Well, earlier, I don't know if everyone got a really good view there, but she was coming right up on the side with that white socket showing where her eye was missing. Then we got another nice shot of her other side. So hopefully everyone got to see the difference. We'll start with our shout outs like always. Terry just wants to say, love the name.
Oh, thank you.
Monty Python. Ha ha ha. Everyone that's a new slapper.
We're so funny.
And I think people forget all the time that, everyone in professions, including zookeepers and anywhere, have sense of humors and are very creative in other fields than just their job. So it's nice that with the names, I get to kind of express that a little bit, or at least somebody did with this little clever name.
Definitely.
You've got a lot of shout outs from Emily. Hi from Delaware. And she wants to talk about how important is it to have an amazing supervisor during your internships.
It is very important. So that is one of the best parts about my current job and the jobs I had before. I had really awesome people teaching me all that they knew about all the animals that we were taking care of. Like I said, I didn't know anything about taking care of reptiles, so Emily had a pretty big job of teaching me everything that she knew, and luckily she did a really awesome job of that.
Well, I think Monty agrees too, because she looks very comfortable, aren't you?
She's having a very good time exploring right now.
We've got a shout out from top fans and regular watchers, Caitlin and Ian. Want to say a quick hello.
Hi, Caitlin and Ian.
And Wesley has a little joke for us. Nope. I don't do nope ropes.
The snakes can be a little scary. Sometimes people are a little afraid of them, but Monty is definitely a very calm snake. Again, she is an older snake, so she's not moving around as much as Bandit was the other day. If you guys saw that live stream, Bandit was giving me a sort of a little exercise going, trying to keep up with her. She is so fast.
Ain't that the truth?
So Monty is a bit more chill since she's older. But yeah, snakes are some animals that people can be scared of, and that also relates to my job and being an interpreter, is kind of telling people why snakes are important. So snakes, they work wonderfully as pest control. So they control those rat and mouse populations that can get into our crops, get into our homes, cause really a lot of problems. They can carry disease. And snakes essentially offer us a free pest control service. So they go about their business eating those mice and rats, and they do that for free for us. So really decreasing the amount of crop damage that we have and all of the problems that we can have from those mice and rats. So they're really important to have. We don't have ball pythons here in Tennessee, but we do have about 30 species of snake in Tennessee. The most common one is the rat snake. And we only have 4 species of venomous snakes. So venomous snakes, people are definitely scared of them. But with any animal out in the wild, if it's something you're scared of, kind of regardless of what it is, we always say you should just give everybody their space. So if you are scared, then just take a couple steps back, and that is the best way to make sure everyone can do their thing.
All right, well, Lily wants to know, do they bite?
Do they bite? Good question. So another thing we like to say is anything with a mouth can bite. But you can see I'm being very nice to Monty. She's not scared or anything like that. So animals are only going to bite if they're scared. So if you give them their space, then they're not going to bite you.
Got another usual watcher, Hazel at age 2, with a hilarious commentary. And she wants to know if Monty is a grandma snake.
A what kind of snake?
I think she meant grandma.
A grandma
A little like grandma.
She is a little old lady. She is I think our oldest snake in our department, at least. She has never laid any eggs. So she's not really a grandma, but she is our little old lady. We try to take very good care of her and be very gentle with her.
Now, snakes aren't very social, are they? Because she could be like a resident grandma to the other snakes.
That is a good question. So they really aren't social. So Monty here doesn't have any roommates. We do have lots of snakes in our department. You guys have probably seen all of them on our encounters. But they don't really like to live together usually. They only come together in the wild when it is mating season. So they're usually hanging out by themselves.
We have a young reptile enthusiast, Gray, age 9, wants to know how often do you feed her because he wants a snake for his birthday.
Good question. So it's the frequency that we feed our snakes. It's going to depend really on how old they are. So younger snakes, they're growing really, really fast. They're growing a lot. So they usually need to eat more. So it kind of depends on what kind of snake you get. Monty here eats every other week, and she eats one rat that is about this big around. So that's the biggest thing that she can eat. That's the size that she's limited by, which is kind of cool because you might be able to see this is how skinny her neck is right here. So she's able to stretch her bottom jaw and her body right here to be able to eat a rat about this size. So it's always good if you're thinking about getting a pet, especially a reptile, to really do good research and make sure that you are prepared to be able to take care of them. So it looks like you're going in the right direction asking me that question.
Well, Chrissy's got a fun story. How can you tell a male from a female? Their snake is about 5 years old. They've had it for 2 years, and they still don't know its gender.
That is a good question. It can be really hard with snakes, especially younger snakes. Probably the best thing to do would be to be able to take it to a vet and ask them. They would be able to tell for sure, because some ways that you can maybe try to tell based on physical characteristics aren't always super reliable.
Okay. We have a lot of Zookeeper fans on here talking about they've always wanted to be a zookeeper. One, age 6, a normal viewer here, wants to be a zookeeper ever since he was a toddler. Once he practiced picking up animal poop by throwing brown Legos on the floor and using a bag to pick them up. He's really committed to all parts of the job.
Wow, my goodness. It sounds like you definitely are preparing for a job as a zookeeper. So that is, hopefully you know now that there's so much that goes into it. So yes, we do pick up poop. It's very true. I can't deny it. But there's a lot of other things that go into it, and you really have to know your stuff. So,
well, cleaning's a big part of it too, just in general, and for many reasons than just cleanliness and smell for us. I mean, I remember watching the elephants. We have a video on here as well, and they have to wash their feet because they're examining them, make sure there's no obstructions anywhere, and keeping it, I think, bacteria free. I forget the whole. I'm so sorry. I'm not a zookeeper, but you know, I remember there's a lot more reason than just like clean it for cleanliness sake. It's clean it to inspect them and make sure they're safe.
Sure they're healthy. Exactly.
Yeah.
Because Monty, she wouldn't be very happy if she had to live in an enclosure with a bunch of poop, with a bunch of gross stuff. So that's the main reason that we clean, is because it keeps our animals nice and healthy.
Isn't it true reptiles too, when you clean out their enclosures or, you know, their homes, is because also you don't want them to eat any maybe rotten food or decaying, anything like that, except they may not be able to tell the difference, and that could probably make them pretty sick.
That is a good point too, yeah. So if Monty weren't to really feel like eating, snakes don't always eat when they're adults, especially if they're about to shed, then yeah, we would definitely want to take that rat out, because it probably wouldn't be very good after a couple days. Some animals are really good at kind of hiding things that they don't want us to find. Definitely lots of birds will kind of stash little things that they are maybe saving as a treat for later, but then they might forget about them and they get pretty gross, and we don't want them to eat them. So you also have to kind of pay attention to the individual animal and sort of have to figure out if they're maybe trying to trick you or try to make your job a little more difficult than it needs to be.
More of that good training, we have to know what to observe and behaviors, back to that psychology we were talking about, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Well, Duncan H. wants to know, what can he do now to prepare for a career at the zoo?
The zoo, that is an excellent question. So like I said, lots of experience is really important, and that can start out as volunteering. So if you live here in Memphis, if you live near another kind of zoo, you can usually start volunteering when you're in high school, when you're a teenager. A lot of places do zoo camps where you can sort of be like a keeper for a day kind of thing. So that would be a really good way to kind of see what all goes into it. And I think you're already on the right track just knowing that that's what you want to do. You can be looking for things that you can do, like I said, nature, rehab facilities, nature centers that maybe have animals. There's lots that you can do. And since part of our job, even people who aren't in the interpreter department, I'm sure you guys have still gone to keeper talks at zoos and sort of seen them talk to a lot of people. So even if you got some experience doing like some educating, talking to people about the environment, about recycling, about different conservation issues, that would be a really great start too, because you do have to have some public speaking skills to be in this field, since when you guys come, you guys want to talk to us, and we want to talk to you guys too.
And Duncan, it's worth telling you, in the next few years, as you get a little bit older, we do have a wonderful volunteer program. Check it out at memphiszoo.org/volunteer. And Mom, there's also a great program for family volunteer days when we do reopen. I think they'll be doing them back in the fall, so you can come and get some real life experience here helping out the zoo as well, which is going to help get a foot in the door anywhere.
Definitely.
All right, Chelsea, age 7, how many eggs does this kind of snake lay at one time?
Good question. So she would lay up to 9 eggs at a time if she were to lay eggs, and they kind of stick together in like a clump, and they take about I think 3 months to hatch usually. And the mom, when they do lay it, they do kind of wrap around it to keep them warm, but after a while the mom goes away, and the hatchlings are actually, they're totally self-sufficient after they hatch. They're already able to hunt and do their own thing.
Ooh, this is a tough one. How many snakes do you currently house at the zoo?
The zoo, I can speak for our department. I'm not sure about the herpetarium. The herpetarium probably has a whole lot. So here in our department, we have, let me think for a second, we have Monty, her friend Crookshanks, and then Creamsicle, and Bandit, and then Val and Julia. So I believe we have 7 snakes in our department.
Well, I apologize. Our Wi-Fi's been kind of hit and miss out here, and YouTube just blew up. We have a lot of comments and questions. A lot of great conversation between McKendry Roach here. Love y'all zoo. We go 1 to 2 times every year. Does she ever get to encounter other snakes at the zoo?
Good question. So as I was saying, they're not really super social animals. So since that's not really usually what they do, they would maybe be kind of unpredictable if we were to put them together. If one of them was to get scared, it's not that they would be super mean to each other or anything, but if they were scared, we don't really know how they would react. So they don't usually have social time together. If we want to give Monty social time, then she'll have social time with us. She'll get to kind of crawl around on our arms. Mm-hmm. We also have a snake pegboard that they're able to climb on, so she can kind of work her muscles a little bit.
Oh yeah, we saw that with Creamsicle.
Mm-hmm. Yep, Creamsicle was on it the other week. So we'll use that for them to get some social time. Since she is part of our interpretation department, she's an ambassador animal. So that means that she lives behind the scenes, and we bring her out into the zoo to meet you guys. So she gets lots of social time. When the zoo is open again, she'll be coming out, meeting you guys, maybe greeting you, being different places. So she gets lots and lots of social time.
And keep an eye on those schedules. When we do finally reopen, we will have those on the social media and the Memphis Zoo website. Galamima is here, who's also on YouTube answering a lot of questions. Apparently a very reptile enthusiast. He says his dream has always been to work with reptiles and conservation. I'm glad to be learning about how zookeepers get their careers.
Awesome.
And he answered quite a few questions, and they all seem pretty correct from what I'm looking at here. Another one from McKendry on YouTube. How many times a year will she shed?
Good question. So that is another thing that kind of depends on age. So younger snakes, again, they're growing super fast, so they shed usually multiple times a year. Monty, I think, does still shed multiple times a year, but it's not going to be super frequently. I have only been here a few months at the zoo, and I think she shed once in the time I've been here, so it might be another month or two before she sheds again, because she's not really growing a whole lot.
All right, hang tight for me here. It looks like we've got some comments that we got a little snag here on the Wi-Fi. It still shows that we're streaming on my end, but we got what happened to the internet and the Wi-Fi. Yeah, what happened? So I'm seeing, I guess we'll just keep going forward, because according to everything on my equipment, it shows that we are still streaming. Mm-hmm. So guys, let me know if you can hear us and we are streaming. We do apologize for technical difficulties with the Wi-Fi. Well, we'll keep on going through these questions since we are still recording, as far as I'm aware of.
Definitely.
Plenty of kids are here just saying hello. Monty, just how beautiful you are.
Good. Glad to hear it.
Emily would like to know, are pythons venomous?
Good question. So they are not a venomous kind of snake. What they are is they're a kind of constrictor. So that means that when they find their food that they want to eat, they're going to wrap around it and squeeze it really tight. They're not using venom coming from their teeth.
Oh, I'm so glad Nancy asked this question. It's one of my favorite questions when people ask, because I lecture my friends about this as well. And I don't even, I work at a zoo now, but I've been lecturing friends for this for years. The Florida Everglades has a huge python problem because of releasing pet snakes into the wild. Mm-hmm. So how would someone find a home for a pet snake? And of course, she didn't put this in there, but I like to know and tell everybody, why should we not release our pets into the wild?
Definitely. That is a very good question. So we shouldn't release our pets into the wild. One, because since they've been taken care of by people for a very long time, maybe their whole lives, then they're probably not going to necessarily know how to hunt out in the wild. So you could actually end up putting your pet in a really serious situation, in a very dangerous situation, if you were to just release them into the wild. So the first thing that you can do to avoid that situation is do a lot of research on the kind of pet you want to get. Again, Monty, she is over 30 years old, so snakes are a really big commitment, and lots of animals are a really big commitment. They can be around for a long time. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to finding a suitable next home for your pets, maybe for snakes, probably maybe best to talk to your vet that you take them to, since you should be taking them to a vet to make sure they're healthy. They can maybe know some outlets. There are some rehab centers that do sometimes take pets, but we don't want to rely on that. We don't want to get a pet with the mindset of, well, if I get tired of it, then I can just bring it somewhere else, give it to somebody else to take care of. We want to make sure when we're getting our pets that we're ready for everything that they're going to need, that we're going to need to do for them to take care of them. So it would definitely be doing kind of the same thing, a lot of research, making sure you're going to a reputable place that maybe can find somebody to help you.
Okay, that sounds good. And why would it be a bad idea to release those animals? I mean, is it good for our ecosystem? I mean, you say ball pythons aren't natural to the U.S.
Yes, that is also another issue. So if they do go out and they are able to sort of survive, take care of themselves, then that means that we now have an animal that has no natural predators here. So they could potentially, their populations could get out of control if you have multiple of them that are surviving and they're then making more ball pythons. Whoops, she's got a little yawn there. Don't know if you guys saw that.
Kind of.
That can really mess up our ecosystem when we just release animals. If there aren't animals who are going to eat Monty, because it is the circle of life, snakes eat rats and mice, other animals like to eat snakes. But if I were to release Monty outside and she were to be able to go around, do her business, eat rats, mice, lizards, birds, all sorts of things, if nothing else ate her, then she now can basically have her run of the place. She can eat however much she wants, whatever she wants. So if there's many of her doing that, then we now have a really big problem. We could potentially decimate our populations of smaller animals, of prey animals. And even though we maybe don't want to be overrun by those animals, like mice and rats, we do still need them for our ecosystem to survive. So it is never a good idea to release a pet into the wild.
Well, as we get close to wrapping up. I do apologize. We're getting mixed comments here. If some can hear us just fine and some can't, some can see. So I'm not sure what's going on, but everything on our end says it's going well. So unfortunately, guys, we're doing everything we can.
I am not trained in IT. That is not any of the training that I have gotten.
I wish I could only do so much while in the middle of the live stream, so I'd have to like shut down. But according to the system, everything looks like it's going really well. Presley age 6 does want to know, how big will this snake get? And is it true, I'm just going to throw this one out there as well, that snakes only get as big as their environments allow them to?
So she is as big as she's going to be right now. She's a little coiled up, so it's kind of hard to see, but she is about 4 feet long from tail to tip. That's about as big as these guys usually get. And it is not true that snakes will just grow to the size of their enclosure. If they're being fed properly, taken care of properly, then they are going to grow to the size that the species needs to be. So that is also another good point, is Monty does need space. She likes to climb, as we can see right here. And she needs all of her special stuff that she needs. So we definitely want to make sure that if we are getting animals, we always like to say, do your research, make sure you have everything that you need, everything to properly take care of them. So you can see she likes to climb. She needs a lot of space to be able to do that and to be healthy.
Okay, looks like everyone's back on and figured it out. I'm so glad to hear.
That's good.
Unfortunately, we are getting towards the end here, and Monty's getting a little, looks like hopefully a little tired. I don't know. She's kind of making us work for it today.
She might be ready for a nap when she goes back.
Okay, so any other advice you want to give to our budding zookeepers out there about where to start? I mean, we've talked about the volunteer program here. We've talked a little bit about education and what they can major in, internships. Mm-hmm. What else could a budding young conservation enthusiast and maybe zookeeper do?
Definitely. So if you do decide to get into the zoo field, I have definitely benefited from really being open-minded. So some people get into this field and they know, I want to work with reptiles, I want to work with tigers, whatever animal it might be that you're interested in, the most interested in. Like I said, I did marine biology. I wanted to work with marine mammals because I really liked the training aspect. I think that's really cool. That's one of my favorite parts of being a zookeeper. But you need any experience in a zoo is going to help. So I first did an internship with primates, and that was really cool. I learned a whole lot from that, even though I had never really thought about working with primates, but I still really liked it. And then actually the public speaking experience I got from that is what led me to get my program animal apprenticeship. So really being open to working with kind of any species. If you end up really not maybe enjoying it, not wanting to work with a certain species, well, at least you found that out. And any zoo experience is going to be helpful if it means that you're still doing great behavioral observations, you're still taking great care of your animals. It's always good to just have that to show. And so being really open to opportunities as far as those opportunities go, being open to living a bunch of different places. I graduated college 2 years ago, and this is the 3rd place I have moved to for the jobs that I have had. So it's not always something where you're going to stay in your hometown or your home state all the time. It's good to want to go different places, to be open to different places. And probably the last advice I would give is to be good at saving money, because as I said, you're probably going to work unpaid. It's not a super high paying job, but it is a very rewarding job. I very much enjoy what I do. I know all the keepers that I work with enjoy what we do. But a lot of people do want to be zookeepers, so there's a really high demand for the job. So giving your all into any opportunity that you get is always going to be helpful.
Well, I definitely enjoyed my job here with you guys. Y'all teach me so much. Before we wrap this up, we do have a couple more for you. I always like to get the shout-outs when I can, but Phil Evans likes to tell us, thanks for keeping people's minds off of everything and helping educate everyone. Y'all are killing it. So way to go, interpretation department.
Thank you, Phil.
Woo! And we have William Douglas, a 4th grader from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Wow.
Has a question. And where is their natural habitat?
Where's their natural habitat? Good question.
He wrote it so formally, I thought we had to say it.
Yeah. They are originally from Africa, so kind of out in West Africa. So they like it really hot out there. They're really pretty common out there, so West Africa.
All right, guys. And Monty, if you want to give one more shot at the camera and say a little goodbye, we're going to sign off here. While you're getting Monty, I would tell everyone, I did see the comments about if we're going to reopen. We don't have a date set in mind right now. We know phase 1 is lifting in the city and that the mayor's making these calls, but just so you know, we're waiting and working well with the city to see what's going to happen and make sure that when we do open, we're going to do it safe, not just for Monty, but also for our keepers like our friend here. So Everybody else have a great day. And Monty, oh, just beautiful.